Judith Shulevitz, excellent book, Jewish Woman, A Sabbath World, it's called. Last week I referred to cultivating sanctuary, her phrase for how we might try to find sanctuary and Sabbath in different ways. And I talked about those long periods of unstructured time spent with family and friends. Sabbaths are what she calls a different order of time. And this helps if we start trying to gain control over some of the time in our lives, if we can see a little bit differently. A different order of time. Can we gain more control of our lives by taking little Sabbaths now and then? I think we can. I think we can break certain patterns that are threatening to take over us. And by breaking them, regain some control, some peace. If you are working in an office, a little Sabbath could be a break every 75 minutes. I know people who do this who usually have to set an alarm. You're not going to remember every 75 minutes. You're going to get distracted. The phone's going to ring. The email's going to happen. So you set an alarm. You have to take control by doing something. You tell yourself that you'll break in an hour and then 2 hours will go by. So you have to set an alarm. Now most computers have them. If not, carry one with you. Setting that alarm will become a meaningful ritual. It will become like a promise to yourself that you're going to try and take care of yourself. Yourself will appreciate it. During this little spot of time, do a mental and physical checkup. How am I feeling? Is my neck stiff? Is my leg asleep? Get away from your desk and stretch. Just a few moments of stretching can help prevent carpal tunnel, back surgery, sciatic nerve pain. I can go on and on and on, and that's just a personal experience. Okay? Just a few moments away from your desk periodically can prevent all sorts of medical problems. So get away from your desk and stretch. Or stay in your chair and do some chair yoga. Our physical positions at our desks are often not the best for breathing, so take some time to take some deep breaths. Let the breaths relax your body. Let the breath settle your mind. You might take a few moments to say a prayer, especially a prayer of gratitude. Express your thanks that you have a job. Express thanks that you were able to get out of bed that morning. Express thanks that you are now, for a moment, in a different order of time. That is a little Sabbath. You can find those if you choose. It is something you have control over. Our states of continuous partial attention, we can interrupt those with a little Sabbath. We can replace that with focused awareness. Awareness of your body, of your breath, of your prayer, of your God. Just doing this a couple times a day will benefit you. Last week I shared Judith Shulevitz's short description of the fourth commandment. And it is, stop working. Stop working at the same time. And stop working at regular intervals. Do this regularly during your day, each day, and you will have created a pattern that you can count on. A pattern that you can look forward to. And it will refresh you each time you do so. I find it very interesting that the world of business is catching on to this need. It is waking up to the fact that just having all of your workers becoming increasingly busy does not mean that your workers are becoming increasingly productive. The Intel Corporation. The Intel Corporation is the company that makes the very computer chips that power so many, if not most, of our devices today. They have been trying out new policies in their offices. It began with an experiment in which they conferred four uninterrupted hours of quiet time every Tuesday morning on 300 engineers and managers. It was a meditation. It was work. But there were 4 uninterrupted quiet hours. What does that mean? It meant no phones and no email. Because they discovered that their average office worker enjoyed no more than 3 minutes at a time at his or her desk without interruption. I know someone who experienced this. The emails are pouring in all the day. The telephone's ringing. You're typing while you talk. You're supposed to be getting something else done too. This is not the best way to accomplish anything. We're letting ourselves be controlled by the technologies that we are surrounding ourselves by, rather than using them as tools to help us do our work. Anyhow, when the Intel Corporation was so successful that they're spreading this out and other parts of the business are now doing the same thing. Creating 4 hours when you're not allowed to use the phone and you're not allowed to check the email. It'll be there when you're done. Angela and I, when we lived in Ohio, we used to like to vacation on some private land way down in the hills of southern Ohio. Not only in those areas could you actually see the Milky Way, which you'll never see probably in big city in the United States anymore. Not only could you see the Milky Way, but one of the other attractions to that location was the fact that our cell phones just did not work there. You had to send a pigeon with a message if you want to talk to Rick and Andrew. I found out this week that some very famous writers, Jonathan Franzen, many of you have read some of his fiction, his novels. Many famous writers are now on record as saying that they will only write on a computer that is not connected to the internet because the distractions are too inviting. You can also buy software for your computer which will block everything for a period of time, since we can't really make ourselves do it ourselves. But I'm impressed that these guys have figured out, if I really want to write this next book, I have to be on a computer that doesn't talk back to me and doesn't require that I talk on email and that I go peruse the internet. There are even very expensive hotels around the world right now that are offering rooms without internet connections for people who need to escape being wired in at all times. Can you remember how recently it was that you go to a hotel and it's like, can I get an internet connection? Do you have wireless? Well, now there are people who are so crazy busy and rich that they go to hotels where you can't get connected. Yeah, it's crazy. Because we have so much trouble resisting online, we're willing to pay somebody else to prevent us from being able to. I've focused on the technological aspects of our challenge because I think technology now seems to hold such power over all of our lives. Disconnecting now and then seems like more than just a good idea. It may be critical to our mental health and our ability to think well, to think clearly. There are so many kinds of little Sabbaths that you could try. Playing a sport, tennis or racquetball can be a Sabbath. It's a break from work. It's a focus on something else. It can be as sacred as anything you do here. It can be as holy as anything you do with your scriptures. Because you're taking care of your God-given Son. And you're recognizing that you, made in the image of God, need to rest just as much as the Hebrew scriptures wisely told us that God needed to rest. Yoga classes are definitely a Sabbath for many people now. A quiet place to focus on body, on breath, and on yourself. I'm big on taking long walks. It's a beautiful way to take a break, to settle your mind, to get some exercise. I know that meditation is not for everyone, but it is amazing how restorative 20 minutes of focused awareness can be. And amazing isn't quite a big enough word. Morning, lunchtime, evening meditations, they will go a long way to help you feel that you are taking care of yourself, that somebody else is not in control. And eventually you begin to look forward to this time, for many of the same reasons that you eagerly anticipate a vacation or the weekend. The people who practice little Sabbaths, they reap measurable benefits. They find themselves becoming more attentive with stronger memories and generally improved cognition. Their brains become calmer, their brains become sharper. There is even evidence, and I didn't have time to fit it all in today, but there is even evidence that we become more empathetic when we slow down the pace of our lives. I've got to find a way to share a study in another sermon later, and I will, because there's an incredible connection between the pace at which we live and how much time we're willing to give to caring for other people. These little spots of time will also help us do what longer Sabbaths accomplish. They create moments in our day when we have time to reflect And we need to reflect. I talked last week how taking time to reflect is actually what gives meaning to our lives. How these little pauses can be like the end of a line in a poem, or silence in a piece of music. Without them, it's all rushing together. It's the way our lives are, folks. Without pauses and time to reflect, it just all runs together and we don't even remember what we did. We need the perspective that only stepping out of the busyness can give us. If we don't want to feel like we're working all the time, we need to prevent ourselves from becoming the slaves of the very machines we hope would save us time. In order to counteract the fragmentation of our work lives, we need spots of time when we can become grounded and centered again. We have to find ways to set the devices down now and then, regularly, religiously, so that we don't live our lives in a state of continuous, partial attention. Before I wrap up, I just want you to consider for one moment what happens to you and me when we are forced to put down our devices. It's happened 3 or 4 times in the brief 4 years that Angela and I have lived here on Shiboni Trail. It happens because summer brings storms and wind and rain, and our power gets shut off. Sometimes for days, but even if it's for 12 hours. What did we do when we can no longer check the email, when we can no longer play the computer game, when we can no longer text our friends, when we can no longer watch TV? I know most people experience a period of shock. Truly. And it's like withdrawal. I can't do this. This isn't right. This is wrong. I gotta have this. Okay, so we get through that, hopefully. What did we do? Then we acted like it was a Sabbath. That's exactly what we do. We light candles. We play cards with our spouses and our families. I can't tell you how many people I have met in the last 4 years during storms, coming out on the street, looking at the transformer, wondering when it's going to get big, talking to people about floods, helping people connect to power so this generator can have power from across the street and run, helping people move trees. Community. Sabbath is forced upon us when the storms come, and we do the very things that the Jews and the Christians for centuries have done when they practice Sabbath. I think that's very important to pay attention to. Especially the fact that suddenly it becomes all about community, and we're away from our little isolated relationships with our machines. It should tell us something, folks, that many of us only do these things when conditions beyond our control prevent us from spending time with our little electronic friends. What if we could assert just a little more control? I think we have to learn how to do this for ourselves if we're going to be whole and happy and well. We can't wait for storms and winds and rains to remind us that we have a life apart from our technologies. Be they the computers that we get chained to at work, or the many devices that populate our purses and our cars and our homes. Big Sabbaths and little Sabbaths will help us restore some balance to our lives. They'll help us once again feel that we are living our lives and not our company's life, not our machine's lives. Unlike the things we buy to save us time, but which really don't, keeping a Sabbath in your schedule will actually make you feel that you have more time, not less. You will have created a different order of time. You will have taken control over at least some of the moments of your life. Regular respites from work will break the pattern of continuous partial attention, and your life will feel less fragmented because of the perspective and the peace that you gain from taking time to step aside and reflect, to stretch, or simply to breathe.